Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of our top 10 most anticipated films of 2020. If you didn't see our first video, please go ahead and check that one out first, and then join us for part 2 here. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, check out our Patreon, and let us know your thoughts when you're done. So next up on my list, actually, it's why I got the Saw shirt here
I was wondering what it was. Okay.
It's a film called The Organ Donor, and it's technically being filmed as a film called The Organ Donor, but it's actually Saw 9. Now, this is one where, like, I get it. I get that people hate this franchise. I get that maybe they want it to die. I have been a huge fan of Saw since 2004. I've liked all the films. I've loved some of them, but I get like all the criticism. It's kind of like, do you have that film where it's like, I love this movie, but I get why everyone else hates it.
I really do like Spectre, but I understand why you hate it.
Exactly. So like we get a film like this is Saw 9. The previous reboot, Jigsaw, came and went and didn't get a lot of fanfare. It made some good money because it didn't cost a lot.
This is fascinating because we're going to get a Fast and Furious 9 next year.
I think they both come out on like the same weekend or like a week apart, and I'm going to have the greatest double feature ever. So The Organ Donor, being produced by Chris Rock, starring Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson. No joke. Sam Jackson plays Chris Rock's father in the film. Chris Rock is playing a detective. And it's got previous franchise filmmaker Darren Lynn Bousman, who has not done a lot of like big name films since his time with Saw. He did Saw 2, 3, and 4. Also did films like Repo, the Genetic Opera, and a lot of like smaller horror films. Most recently, there's a film about a nunnery. I can't remember the name. It's not that good, but it's on Netflix. So I'm really excited to see him kind of return to this franchise.
This is what they had to do. They had to kind of suppress it.
Yeah, and it's kind of that thing where it's like I think LeBron James is trying to produce a new Friday the 13th film. We get Chris Rock stepping in to do a new Saw film. Like we get these like people that you wouldn't expect to like a franchise.
It looks like a square and a round peg, but yeah.
Yeah, like I would not have pegged Chris Rock as being a Saw fan, but he loves the franchise, and he had a really unique idea he brought into the studio. And we're getting a movie. I know nothing about it, but
I can tell this pitch. I'll be in the movie.
Whoa. Yeah, and I'll get Sam Jackson to be my father. Like that's what is most interesting to me here is like, what is this movie going to be? I've heard no record of a Tobin Bell returning to the franchise, who appeared in all 8 films, even though he.
Well, I think this needs to be right. I think this is because if anybody found really, I mean, obviously it's like an open secret.
Yeah.
But I think if you kind of suppress it, leaked it out a little bit, that maybe you get some more people coming back that were really have a disdain for it.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting too is, you know, we've gotten a lot of films recently, like be it a RoboCop Returns or the Terminator Dark Fate or Halloween 2018, where they've kind of retconned away some of the sequels. Doesn't sound like that's happening with this film.
Like they're going to stick with the linear.
Yeah, it may not directly reference them, but it's not going to like bring characters that died back from the dead, according to my thoughts at least. But yeah, it's just there's not much known about the film, and that's what excites me more than anything. It's just like, what is this movie, and why is it being called The Organ Donor? Why is this director? Why is this writer? What's going on? So that's my 5th choice is The Organ Donor, aka Saw 9, coming in May, I believe. What's up next?
Number 4, David Fincher comes back next year. He's going to direct a movie called Mank, which is about the making of Citizen Kane with Orson Welles and Henry Mankiewicz. If you watched Turner Classics, Henry Mankiewicz is his great-grandfather. Perfect, because Orson Welles, the Citizen Kane's very dark. The development, the guy who was in The Souvenir, who played the toxic boyfriend, is going to play Orson Welles. Gary Oldman's in it. I think this is going to be out of the ballpark. If you're a fan of David Fincher stuff, this is going to be definitely up here. You want to see this movie.
Yeah, I would prefer this to his when he was attached to doing World War Z 2.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want him to do it. I honestly didn't like the first one that much.
David
Fincher hasn't had a lot of great work in franchises. Yeah, and I think he works better when he gets to do something he wants to do. This seems like it was a passion project for him for years. And so I like that he cares about this. He wants to do it. And I think it's going to provide some challenges for him too, which is nice.
And I think he likes film, and it's about making of a film, and it's like, you know, almost like an Ouroboros, you're feeding yourself and stuff like that. So definitely,
this is probably going to be one of those ones people talk about at the end of the year next year for like, if it turns out good, they'll talk about it for Oscars.
Yeah,
because
the Academy loves
itself.
It loves Academy loves itself, and it talks about itself.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see it. I've seen some documentary footage about the making of Citizen Kane, and I think going into that kind of a world is pretty interesting because it is considered by some people to be the greatest film of all time, or at least in the conversation
academically and scholarly.
And it is a brilliant movie. So I'm very excited to see what comes out of this film when it arrives. So, awesome, cool. My next choice here, I have purposely avoided the trailer which dropped this last weekend.
Number 4, okay.
And that's Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm already excited to see the film. I don't really want to see the trailer. I don't really want to know anything about it. I'm just so excited to see that it's returning to the world that was crafted. A lot of people didn't like that Ghostbusters Answer the Call film that was in 2016, the all-female Ghostbusters, as it's been called.
There's a lot of problems with it.
There's problems with it. It's, again, one of those ones where I found the good outweighed the bad, but my biggest frustration with it is the film kind of sold itself as being part of the world of Ghostbusters, and I thought maybe like one of these characters was going to be like the daughter of one of the main 4.
Yeah, you want
and, like,
some kind of
attachment. They set it up as it was some sort of attachment, and it felt like you're telling a completely different story with these characters, and it also felt to me like it's just not a fluid way to like do the story.
No, and I especially for the all female one, it felt like it was a story, and then you paperclip Ghostbusters on it.
Yeah.
And it's not like a nucleus of let's start with Ghostbusters and then work around it.
Yeah,
it looked like you just posted and okay. It's
and I think the biggest fault in the film is you have all 4 Ghostbusters returning in that film because they did have Harold Ramis's bust in the university. Like they had their moment to Harold Ramis. Everybody who returned in that film played all they did was it was an awful like cameo appearance from Bill Murray, from Dan Aykroyd.
It was stale.
If anybody, maybe the actor who played Winston showing up at the end of the film was probably the one I was most enjoyed by. But all it did was remind you what we could have had if Bill Murray would have just let them make Ghostbusters 3 10 years ago. Because there was all that problems with that making that film. Now apparently they're all coming back. There's a solid emotional connection to the previous 2 films. It just excites me because I think like they're gonna hit like that tone, and you've got the son of Ivan Reitman,
Jason,
directing the film, who has done some amazing work.
No, he's not writing it. I mean, obviously his dad's a very famous director, but he does accomplish a lot of movies like Juno and all this stuff. Yeah. So he's an accomplished director on his own. Yeah,
and I think I don't always love his movies, but I always love the audacity he has. And
right,
he does aim for the stars. So that's my next choice, Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Number 3, Guillermo del Toro comes back with a noir remake called Nightmare Alley. If you don't know, Nightmare Alley came out in 1947. It's kind of carnival noir. It's not a city noir if you think about it, but it's a con man who gets duped in by a circus carnival lady who's a psychic, and he finds out that it's not really, she's just a scam. And he tries to scam her, but she scams him. So it's one of those layers on top of layers of who's playing who, and the end result is not happy. But Guillermo del Toro is going to do it, so it's a little bit of a horror more to her than we think. And of course, carnival, so we're going to have a little bit of freakish to it.
Yeah, I don't know very much about the film. I heard about it. I heard del Toro was aiming for something.
This is really weird.
He tried to get DiCaprio to lead the film. I don't know who he ended up actually getting for a lead. I heard he aimed for DiCaprio and he aimed for Bradley Cooper to lead the film. And I don't really know what ended up happening with that, but I was like, I like that he's reaching out to different people now. Yeah. He's one of those guys that he doesn't always work with the same people. He works with Doug Jones a lot. He works with Ron Perlman a lot. But other than them, he kind of
he throws different leads.
He kind of grabs his.
And this is really weird after winning all the awards for Shape of Water, and producers pretty much do whatever you want. Here's a blank check, and he wants to do a remake of this movie. So I'm interested to why. I want to see his version, his perspective of it. Obviously, carnivals aren't really around as much as they used to be in the 40s. So I don't know if there's going to be like a back in time or present. There's a lot of elements that Guillermo, we don't really know. Yeah, but we know it's going to be a little bit of horrific.
Yeah, and you got to wonder, is this one that's been sitting on his desk for a while? Because if you look at every film that comes out from Del Toro,
right,
there's 4 films that are on his desk that he wants to do.
Yeah.
He's a big Lovecraft fan. He had a Pinocchio. He had a Frankenstein.
He's got a rain machine that makes it rain out his window so he gets an atmosphere when he writes.
Yeah, so I mean, he's got just a plethora of finished scripts that he could pick from. Yeah. So something about this had to have gotten to him. And this is his first major film post Shape of Water. He produced some films. He produced Antlers, which is coming out next year. He produced Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which came out this year. He's not a question of what he's going to do now that he's got that carte blanche.
Yeah.
So very exciting. Cool. My next film is a director who I've loved for years and years and years. I don't know anything about the movie again because he hasn't let us know anything about the film, and that is Tenet.
Oh, yes.
So I don't know if this is something related to Inception. That's kind of the running theory right now, is that it's in the same world as Inception.
No, but Christopher Nolan knows how to tease us.
Yeah.
He just knows how to tease us. And the teaser with John David Washington of what's going on, and we know there's elements of mysticism involved without even really showing mysticism.
Yeah. It seems almost like a detective story set in a dream world.
Yeah.
That's kind of some of the things I've heard from people. What's funny about it is I don't think he even really cares if you don't get the teaser, because I didn't get. I don't really know if he didn't really say anything at all. There's a bullet wound and there's John David Washington. I love John David Washington from seeing him in Black Klansman, which is my favorite film from 2018.
Yeah, he had a big coming out party last year, 2018.
And as much he's one of the parts I really liked in Ballers, which I don't like the show at all, the Dwayne Johnson show on HBO, but I really like John David Washington in the film or in the show. So I think like he's just kind of gaining steam, the son of a famous actor. Royalty.
But you see a guy in a suit and tie, and there's some mysticism involved, and it's Nolan, and it has this gargantuan film budget, and it's shot in IMAX film. You love movies, you're gonna have to want to go see this.
Yeah. So I'm very excited for just the unraveling of the mystery of it. It's kind of like with Interstellar. When I first heard Interstellar was coming out, I didn't watch a single trailer for it, and I just kind of went into the movie. And so I think that's my goal.
I think Nolan wants you to go.
Yeah, it's just go see it. I did it. You trust me. You like me. Come along. That's great though. Yeah, Tenet was my choice there. Fun fact though, I think they showed that teaser in Hobbs and Shaw was the first film released.
Yes.
With the teaser, and I was in the IMAX theater for that.
And you
surrounded by people. No, I watched it because I was like, it's gonna be like 20 seconds. But my favorite thing was like the lady behind me was this elderly woman who was like, I don't know anything about that. And then she paused for like 10 seconds. I think I'd like to see it.
Right, that's Nolan.
I was like, okay, check off another person watching the film. So yeah, that was my choice, Tenet.
Well, since you picked Tenet, I'm going to take one of my alternates because that was on my list, but I'm going to take another substitute. Paul Schrader comes back and directs with Oscar Isaac, and the movie's called The Card Counter. So Paul Schrader, if you've been following him, he's been doing a lot of movies about in the woods and nature and all that stuff, and here he's doing a city kind of a story called The Card Counter. Here's the thing. We don't even know it's going to be released. So there's a lot of antics about it. Paul Schrader likes to fight with producers about
he fights with everyone.
Fights with everybody. So there's a little element. Are we ever going to get to see it? When we're going to see it? Oscar Isaac's in it. What's the story about? Obviously, it's about gambling and all that stuff, and the shady world. Paul Schrader likes the world of the shady world of stuff. So elements, and I do like Paul Schrader as a director. I'm fascinated to see it.
Yeah, Paul Schrader for me is a guy who just really creates those crowd-pleasing movies that were like you leave at the end and you just hate everything. I think what he wrote Taxi Driver. Is that correct?
He wrote Taxi
way
Driver.
back when.
Yeah.
And then I most recently saw First Reformed.
First Reformed was kind of a remake of
an amazing movie.
But it's kind of a remake of a Bergman movie, but it's an amazing movie.
It's kind of like a Bergman version with Paul Schrader's Taxi Driver jammed into it, because there's that kind of like anarchist kind of.
And it was on my. If you listen to the St. Paul Filmcast, First Reformed was on my top 10 list.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
Fun fact about him: he also directed a prequel to The Exorcist.
That's another one.
I own both versions of that film.
Okay.
So there's Exorcist the beginning, which I think Rennie Harlan came in and shot a bunch of footage and turned it into more of a straight-laced horror film. And then there's a Dominion prequel to The Exorcist. I love Dominion. I think Dominion's brilliant. But no one else has seen
it.
But
that's a great, if they teach you in film school, they should go back to study about Paul Schrader doing the prequel Exorcist and all the reshooting stuff and 2 different releases, 2 different titles.
I'm really hoping David Fincher, when he finishes making his Citizen Kane film, comes and makes a film about the making of The Exorcist prequel.
The making of The Exorcist,
Very cool. That's exciting. My next choice again, and I apologize to everybody, there's a lot of horror on here. I like horror, deal with it. Is Malignant from director James Wan. He's returning to horror after Aquaman.
I never know about this.
And this is his smaller film he's going to do in between Aquaman 1 and 2. Not much is known about it. It comes out next, I think, October, and it's he said it's inspired by Italian horror giallo films, and like that immediately brings to mind Suspiria, which is one of my favorite horror films. I can't wait to see what he does, because he's already done some really 70s inspired films with things like Insidious, and of course filming the period pieces for The Conjuring. And that's why I picked this one over The Conjuring 3, because James Wan is attached to this film. So yeah, I really am excited. I don't know anything about it, but I'm very excited to see what he does with it. I love his horror films, and I think there's not a single film of his that I flat out don't like. My least favorite film is still all right.
Right, James Wan, and it's called Malignant.
Malignant. Okay. Yeah. So not a very like happy title, so that makes me excited. But yeah, there's my next choice is James Wan's Malignant.
There's so many to choose from, because Wes Anderson's going to come up with a movie, Paul Thomas Anderson's going to come up with another movie, Sofia Coppola is going to come out with a movie with Bill Murray as being a drunk dad. So there's a lot of movies. The other one I want to pick up and mention is the movie Joe Wright, director from Atonement, and what's the other one?
Darkest Hour.
Darkest Hour. Yeah. He's coming out with a new movie called The Woman in the Window, based on a story adapted from a book, the same author who did Girl Gone. But Joe Wright, who has a very distinct style, loves to take his time with movies, love his sets and everything, but has a great cast involved: Amy Adams, Julianne Moore, Gary Oldman. And the music is by Trent Reznor. So it's a very timepiece. It has all these elements to make a great movie. And Joe Wright does make good, fascinating movies. I'm really fascinated to see what this is about.
Yeah, and that one was pushed back. It was supposed to come out this year. Yeah. I don't know the details. I heard things about how like the finished cut wasn't very good. Yeah. And so I'm curious to see what they're going to kind of...
Right, if you've been following, there's a lot of backwater stuff going around. Yeah. But with Joe Wright, he doesn't make really a bad movie.
I've seen Pam. I'm just kidding. Yeah, hopefully it's more towards Darkest Hour. I was really impressed with Darkest Hour when it came out, so I'd like to see something a lot closer to that kind of excitement.
But he's got Amy Adams, Julianne Moore, Gary Oldman. Yes, please. And Trent Reznor's doing the music. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot wrong with the film, so hopefully the finished cut shows us that as well.
Hopefully the finished cut was good. Let's make it great.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. All right, so my next choice comes towards the end of next year. I was extremely excited to find out that Halloween 2018 is getting 2 sequels, one in 2020, one in 2021. Okay. And so that's basically turning this new Halloween film into like a 4-part story. There's 78, there's 2018. The next film, which comes out in 2020, is Halloween Kills, followed by 2021's Halloween Ends. I'm extremely excited with the idea that they're going into this as almost like a trilogy.
Okay.
The 2018 and these 2 new films, and ending the story. Like, every franchise talks about, we're going to have an ending. I think Friday the 13th has 3 of them. I think this one is one that really excites me because it feels like that was the intention from the get-go, with resurrecting this franchise to come to a conclusion with it. And of course, we know it's not going to be the last Halloween film. They'll end up doing a new continuity or something like that.
Something Rob Zombie will pick it up again.
Yeah, right. Rob Zombie will come back and do his 3rd film. Yeah. I think this is really cool, though, and I love the fact that they're bringing in a lot of other elements to it, things from the original film.
Yeah.
There's a character, Lonnie, who was in the 78 film picking on the kid that Jamie Lee Curtis babysits early on in the film. Yeah. Lonnie is going to be a character in this film, played by Richard Longstreet, who was recently seen in Dr. Sleep. We're also getting the return of like the kids that were being babysat are coming back. Kyle Richards, who played the little girl that was being babysat in the original film, was coming back to play her in this film. And I'm blanking on its name, from The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles.
Not Judd.
No.
Michael Anthony Hall?
Anthony Michael Hall, yes. He is coming back to play the other kid that she was babysitting grown up in this film. I love that actor. I love Anthony Michael Hall.
So there's there's all elements of this is going to be a nice sequel. They're not just throwing...
They're throwing a lot of good into the sequel so
right.
far.
They're just not... What I'm saying is they're just not going to fly anything on the wall and see if it sticks, or just write a script and just put Michael Myers in there and just chop it up. They're really want to concentrate on making a good movie.
Yes. And while I really liked Halloween 2018, I didn't love it, but I really, really liked it, and I really wanted to see where it went next. So this is a film for me that just very much excites me. I love that they're filming them back to back. I hope there's a great cliffhanger at the end of Halloween Kills, something that is going to ruin my life for a whole year while I wait for the conclusion. That's all I want. So that was my 9th choice, Halloween Kills. What's your final choice.
Well, why don't we do it because it's both on our list?
It's the same film?
It's the same
Oh
film.
my gosh. Okay, so 3, 2, 1.
Dune.
Oh my god, I'm so excited for Dune. Let's start
Yeah.
with you. What are your thoughts on Dune?
If anybody knows me, Frank Hubert's Dune is, I'm a big fan. I've read that book many times. I've got all the sequels, the Messiah, and all that stuff. And I was when 2017 when they started about the rights again, and then they found the perfect director for it,
Absolutely.
Denis Villeneuve.
Yep. So he came off of Blade Runner for 2049, and
Yes.
when Denis was in all of these like interviews, they said, "What's your passion project?" And he said,
Dude,
And
right.
I thought to myself when I heard that, I was like, "How did I not put this together in my head? He would be perfect directing Dune."
Right.
Especially, and then we have it.
Right. If you don't Dune the book, it's a 1,000-page book.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that when it says Dune, we know this is only the first half of the book they're going to be filmed. They're going to film all of it, and it looks like all the filming is going to be about 5 hours of film. And this one maybe like 3 hours, and we're gonna wait another year. It's like gonna come out to like December 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's done right, David Lynch tried it, and producers had to cut a lot of it, so a lot of it got really
Even his director's cut is still okay at best.
It's a hack surgeon, but Dennis behind the wheel, I think this is going to be a cinematic masterpiece.
Yeah, and this thing better make some money because its cost is through the roof. If you've looked at the cast list, there's like 100 stars in this film.
Who isn't in this film?
That's exactly the thing. You could just make a list of who's not in the film, and it's probably most of the people in the David Lynch film. But I'm really excited for it. I think it's really great to be giving it to an auteur director, a director who I think could make maybe this decade's Lord of the Rings with Dune. Something that could like be a regular at the Academy Awards, be a regular on conversations for like one of the greatest.
As a person, as a huge Dune fan, we anticipate that this one book, not just going out with all the other books, but if you just concentrate on this book, you can make 3 movies out of it.
Oh yeah, so that's very exciting. I'm looking forward to it, just to kind of see what he does with it because he loves the source material. I myself, again, have never read Dune. I have a copy of it, and I know now that I have 11 months to read it before this film comes out.
It'll probably take you 11 months.
Yeah. If you guys know how long it took me to read it, if you followed me on Twitter during that time, my goodness, it's going to take a bit. So I'm going to get started on that.
The book has a glossary and a dictionary that's even longer than some books.
Yeah. So maybe I'll start there. Great. Yeah, that awesome choice, awesome list. I think we got a lot of great films we're looking forward to. And the best part is if we have this many great films coming out in 2020 that we know about now, think about all the ones that we're going to be surprised by when we hear about them later.
Right. All the ones we don't know about. Because we know Wes Anderson's coming out with a great one. We know Paul Thomas Anderson. They make phenomenal movies, even though they're not on the list, because I kind of know what we're getting into when we see one of their films.
Yeah. But there was a lot of films I put on the list where it's like, I think this movie's going to be really good, but I don't have space for it. And that's kind of a nice feeling going into the years. Usually I find a good 10 films that I'm excited for, but then, you're kind of like, let's see, tell me what else I'm going to be like jonesing for when it comes out. So I'm very excited to find out more about that.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys. Nick, where can we find you?
Host the St. Paul Filmcast, where I interview filmmakers from the St. Paul area. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Kyle, where can we find you?
I'm on goatfilmreviews.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Almighty Goatman. Read all my reviews. I think they're pretty darn special.
And if he behaves himself, he might come back on the St. Paul Filmcast.
Oh, yeah, definitely. No, I'll just sneak down the stairs. You guys know. So that's it for us this time, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Comment below, like, subscribe. Let us know what films you're excited for in 2020. And, of course, don't forget, if you haven't had a chance, listen to St. Paul Filmcast, one of our episodes at the end of the year. We did our top 10 films of the year, and we did a little touch on our top 10 films of the decade as well. So.
And top 10 of the decade. Yeah. That took a little more research than...
Oh my God. So that's it for us this time, guys. We'll see you next time.